Well, I started collecting rhinoceros horn carvings back in the early 70s. The first one I bought was this one, which was in an antique store in Bath, England, and it kind of grew on me and I wanted others. So through some of the auction houses and antique dealers and private individuals, I acquired the rest of them.
Carved from a material as rare as it is mysterious, these vessels immediately reveal a level of artistry reserved for only the most elite circles of imperial China. This remarkable group consists of rhinoceros horn libation cups created between the late 17th and early 18th centuries during the Qing dynasty, a period when craftsmanship reached extraordinary refinement. Each piece is sculpted from solid horn prized for its density and subtle translucence, then transformed into forms inspired by nature and ancient tradition. One cup blooms like a magnolia with dragons climbing along its branches, while another recalls the ancient Ju, a ritual wine vessel from early Chinese bronzes. Others depict immortals in vivid detail, or take the shape of lotus leaves, their flowing contours carved with remarkable precision. The surface of each cup becomes a continuous narrative blending symbolism, mythology, and technical mastery. Originally intended for ceremonial use, these objects were expressions of status and cultural sophistication. Their survival is exceptionally rare, as rhinoceros horn carving declined over time due to scarcity and regulation. Today, works of this caliber are highly sought after, especially amid renewed interest in classical Chinese art, a rare fusion of craftsmanship and cultural legacy.
I believe that a conservative number would be between $1 million and $1,500,000 for this group.
Serious?
I'm serious.
Whoa. Well, I won't have to depend on just Social Security, I guess.
Well, it's been in my family for over 80 years. It was purchased somewhere around 1930 by my great-grandparents.
In Mexico or in the United States?
I believe it was purchased in Mexico.
Okay.
And the painting for some time was in bad condition, and it was hanging behind a door.
Behind a door?
Behind a door in the house.
Dear.
If that door was open, then you couldn't see the painting.
Hidden for decades, this painting carries the quiet weight of a rediscovered masterpiece, a work once thought lost to history. Painted in 1904 by Diego Rivera, it dates to a remarkably early moment in the artist's life, when he was just 18 years old. Long before becoming one of the most influential figures in 20th century Latin American art, Rivera was already exploring themes that would define his career. The composition reflects both academic training and emerging individuality. Rendered in oil on canvas, the figure of a laborer reveals Rivera's early interest in the working class, a subject that would later dominate his monumental murals. The brushwork and structure hint at his developing style, while the youthful signature, more informal than his later works, captures the artist at the very beginning of his journey. Equally compelling is the painting's history. After being acquired around 1930, it disappeared from records for decades, its whereabouts unknown until its rediscovery and authentication in the late 20th century. Carefully restored, it now stands as both an artistic and historical document, a rare glimpse into the origins of a master.
I would be putting a retail estimate on the piece of between $800,000 and $1 million.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Unbelievable. I did not expect that. I'm astounded. I really don't know what to say.
My great-great-grandmother had a boarding house in Boston, and she housed the Boston baseball team. Most of them had come from Cincinnati Red Stockings, and were among the first to be paid to play baseball.
Now, all these cards went to your great-grandfather? That's how he got them, and they got handed down to you?
Yeah, apparently he collected them, and he unfortunately cut them down to fit this little album, so they're all slightly askew. And the thing that's special, in addition to the cards, is this letter, and they all wrote a little sentence and signed it.
Tucked within a modest album lies a story from the very birth of professional baseball, a time when the sport was still finding its identity. This extraordinary archive dates to 1871, the founding year of the first professional baseball league, and is directly connected to the early Boston team formed from the famed Cincinnati Red Stockings pioneers of paid play in American sports history. At its heart are some of the earliest known photographic baseball cards, featuring legendary figures such as Harry Wright, his brother George Wright, and Albert G. Spalding. These were not just players, but architects of the modern game, shaping what would later become the National and American Leagues. Though trimmed to fit into an album, the images remain remarkably significant, preserving rare likenesses from a time when baseball memorabilia was virtually non-existent. Accompanying the cards is a deeply personal letter, filled with handwritten notes and signatures from the players themselves. Their words, casual and human, offer a rare glimpse into daily life, reflecting camaraderie, humor, and gratitude toward the woman who housed them. Together, the photographs and letter form a unique window into the origins of professional baseball, a foundational piece of sporting history.
Everything here, if you're going to insure it,
Insurance, okay.
I would insure it for at least $1 million.
Are you serious? Oh my. Holy smokes.
It is the greatest archive I have ever had at the Roadshow.
Really?
This watch was handed down from my great-grandfather. He was the owner of the St. Paul Pioneer Press and Dispatch back in 1914 when he received this watch. And it was handed down from him to my father, and then he gave it to me.
At first glance, it appears to be simply an elegant gold pocket watch, but hidden within its polished case lies one of the highest achievements of horological art. Crafted by Patek Philippe of Geneva, this extraordinary timepiece dates to the early 20th century and reflects a period when watchmaking reached remarkable technical sophistication. Known for producing some of the finest watches in the world, Patek Philippe created pieces not just for telling time, but as mechanical masterpieces. Encased in 18-karat engine-turned gold, the watch features a remarkable array of complications. The dial displays hours, minutes, and seconds, alongside a split-seconds chronograph, allowing the timing of multiple events simultaneously. A slide on the side activates the minute repeater, a highly prized feature that chimes the time to the minute on demand. Turning the watch over reveals an equally impressive display, including day date, month, moon phase, and a perpetual calendar that automatically adjusts for leap years. Such complexity places it among the most advanced portable timekeeping instruments of its era. Its condition further elevates its importance with original components preserved, including the crystal box and even spare parts. Pieces of this caliber are exceptionally rare and increasingly sought after by collectors and institutions alike, a true pinnacle of watchmaking ingenuity.
Patek Philippe is now purchasing those watches for their museum. This watch at auction, I suspect, would bring close to $250,000.
No.
Yes.
$250,000?
This is one incredible watch. I've never held a watch like this in my hand.
What? You're kidding.
That is one incredible watch.
This belonged to my great-granduncle. He managed a hotel on the west side of New York, and he had a room that had a skylight, and so he let Thomas Benton use it as his studio and other artists from the Student League. And some of these paintings were gifts for using the room, I believe, and they bought some of them. And this Joseph Stella was an early work.
Forms seem to glide across the surface of this painting, creating a sense of motion that feels both natural and abstract. Created by Joseph Stella. In the early to mid-1920s, the work belongs to a period when the artist was exploring a more expressive and modernist style. Born in Italy and trained in New York, Stella became a key figure in American modernism, blending European avant-garde influences with a deeply personal vision. Often described as resembling an angelfish, the composition reflects Stella's fascination with organic movement. Shapes flow and overlap with rhythmic energy, while luminous colors give the painting a sense of inner light. Rather than depicting a literal subject, it captures an impression shaped by nature and imagination. The original white gold frame, simple and refined, and echoes the modernist aesthetic of the time. Carefully preserved under glass, the painting remains in excellent condition, a rare advantage for works of this era. Pieces from this period are increasingly scarce and highly valued. A striking example of early American modernism.
I would appraise your painting for both insurance value and for if it were to sell in an art gallery at about $250,000. I feel it's, I've just been consulting with my colleagues. I think it's quite a spectacular piece. You're lucky to have this.
You amaze me.
Lucky to have this inheritance.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, congratulations.
It's amazing.
It's a mobile by Alexander Calder, and Calder gave it to my aunt. My aunt and uncle were having a cocktail party, and Calder was visiting friends of theirs who were invited to the party, so they took Calder along. And my aunt was very creative, and among other things, she had done a needlepoint pillow of one of Calder's works. And he was astounded. He'd never seen one like that before. And so she gave it to him. And a couple of days later, somebody had appeared at the doorway, and he had given her this mobile.
A few painted shapes, a length of wire, and suddenly empty air begins to move like music. That quiet transformation is the genius of Alexander Calder, the American sculptor who revolutionized modern art by inventing the mobile in the early 1930s. This small hanging work, likely made in the early 1940s and later given as a personal gift, belongs to the period when Calder was refining the visual language that made him world famous. Delicately balanced with thin wire and painted sheet metal elements, it turns the slightest current of air into choreography. Calder often favored vivid primary colors, and that bold clarity became one of his signatures. His mobiles joined engineering precision with playfulness, giving sculpture movement lightness and chance. Works from this era are especially prized because they capture the moment when Calder's invention had fully matured just before his attention shifted more toward larger installations in the 1950s. Even at an intimate scale, a piece like this carries the full force of 20th century innovation. It is not just a sculpture, but a landmark in the history of modern art.
Right now, Alexander Calder's market is extremely hot, and in a good retail setting, it would not be at all inconceivable that this very small, wonderful piece of art could probably break $1 million.
Oh my God.
Not bad for a pillow.
Oh. My problem is I've got one mobile and 2 children.
I'm sure your husband, who was watching off camera, will be equally happy with the good news.
Oh, I think so.
That's great.
My father was in China 2 different times, I think in the late 30s and sometime during the 40s, with the Army, and he was a liaison of some sort. He was just a Kentucky farm boy, but he learned Chinese, and he met a Mr. Liang at number 10 Jade Street, and that's pretty much what I remember him always telling me. Mr. Liang would call him and say, "John, I have some pieces you might want to look at."
At first glance, they seem almost too refined to be real pale jade, carved so thinly, so crisply, that light appears to rest on the surface instead of sinking into stone. This remarkable group belongs to the Qianlong period of the Qing dynasty, 1736 to 1795, an era often seen as the high point of imperial taste and technical perfection in Chinese jade carving. Several pieces reflect the Mughal-inspired style admired at the Qing court, where Indian forms were reimagined in Chinese jade with exceptional delicacy. The bowls are shaped with elegant symmetry, polished to a soft glow, and cut with astonishing precision. Among them stands a more ornate vessel, likely a small vase or covered piece also in Mughal taste, distinguished by its refined carving, and crowned with a ruby finial, adding a striking note of color and luxury. Another highlight is a finely carved celadon jade bixie, a mythical creature believed to ward off evil, rendered with fluid lines and exceptional craftsmanship. Most important of all is the imperial bowl bearing an inscription that indicates it was made by imperial order, placing it in the rare category of objects created for the emperor himself. Together, the group reveals not just wealth, but the cosmopolitan vision of the Qianlong court, where symbolism, craftsmanship, and imperial authority met in stone. Today, pieces of this caliber are prized for both their beauty and rarity, a rare glimpse into imperial artistry at its peak.
For a total amount of between $710,000 to $1,070,000.
Damn.
It's an incredible collection. And he also bought at a period of time where I would doubt if he paid more than $100 for any one of these pieces.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. I just can't, I had no idea.
My father gave me this painting that I remember it so well when I was a little child in Yorkshire, England, and this lady is my grandmother. She lived in a wonderful house called the Gleddings in Halifax, Yorkshire, and the painting was painted by Robert Henri.
Yes.
And he was a friend of the family. She considered herself a Bostonian. She was
From,
born outside Boston in West Dedham, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Never worked. I don't think she ever boiled a pot of water for tea. Look at that hand.
Yeah, a lovely hand. Well,
There is an unmistakable presence in this portrait, a figure rendered with both elegance and quiet intensity, capturing more than just a likeness. Painted by Robert Henri in the early 20th century, this work belongs to a pivotal moment in American art, around the time he founded the Ashcan School in 1908, a movement that sought to portray life with honesty and immediacy. Henri trained under Thomas Anschutz and influenced by William Merritt Chase, brought together academic refinement and bold modern expression. This portrait reflects that balance. The sitter is presented with a composed dignity, yet the handling of paint, particularly in the face, reveals a more expressive, almost raw energy. The warm, ruddy tones and confident brushwork give the figure vitality, while details such as the delicate hand-jeweled ring and feather fan add both texture and narrative richness. The painting also reflects Henri's time abroad, likely created during a documented stay in England, where he accepted portrait commissions. Works from this early period are especially significant, marking the transition toward a distinctly American style of portraiture. Today, paintings of this caliber are both rare and historically important. A powerful blend of tradition and modern vision.
I think there would be many people who would want it. I believe you should probably insure this somewhere in the area of $250,000 to $300,000.
Oh, no.
Because
No.
it is a...
Oh, my God.
It's early. It's at the time of the founding of the Ashcan School, and you've been a very good caretaker of it.
I'm floored.
Well,
Are you
Pat,
sure about that?
I am sure about that. It's wonderful.
I'm kind of flabbergasted here.
I don't know an awful lot about it, except that it was given by Kit Carson, whoever I'm sure everybody knows in his history, given to the foster father of my grandmother.
And do you know who made this weaving? Do you know what kind of blanket it is?
It's probably a Navajo, but that's about all I know.
At first glance, it appears almost austere, a composition of bold stripes and quiet balance. Yet this restraint defines one of the earliest masterpieces of Native American textile art. This is a Navajo First Phase Chief's blanket, woven between circa 1840 and 1860, representing the pure beginnings of Navajo weaving. Created for high-status leaders and widely traded among tribes such as the Ute, these blankets were powerful symbols of wealth identity and cultural exchange in the American Southwest. Its design is striking in its simplicity. Unlike later weavings filled with complex diamond motifs, this early form relies on strong horizontal bands and precise spacing. The wool is hand-spun and woven so finely it almost resembles silk, offering both durability and refinement. Deep blue sections are dyed with indigo, a valuable material at the time, adding both visual depth and historical significance. Remarkably well preserved, the textile shows only minor wear, along with an early repair likely made in the 1860s using raveled bayeta, a prized trade cloth. Such details enhance its story, marking it not just as an object, but as a living artifact shaped by time and use. Today, examples of this quality are exceptionally rare. A foundational piece of Navajo artistry.
On a really bad day, this textile would be worth $350,000. On a good day, it's about $500,000.
Oh, my God.
And you had no idea.
I had no idea. I was just laying on the back of a chair.
Well, sir, you have a national treasure.
Wow.
A national treasure.
I'm amazed. I'm flabbergasted.
He lived and worked in Southern California from around 1920 to the mid-1930s. And I lived in Laguna Beach then, grew up there. And this is a picture of the way the town looked at that time.
Oh, my goodness. So this is probably done in the early 1920s, would you judge?
I would say toward the late 20s or 30s.
How did your family acquire it?
My father knew him, and unfortunately he passed away, but my father and mother knew his widow, and they did buy it from his widow.
What year would that have been?
That was 1939.
Sunlit and full of life, this painting offers a vivid window into early Laguna Beach at a time when it was little more than a quiet coastal village. Created by Joseph Kleitsch in the late 1920s or early 1930s, The work reflects the artist's deep fascination with Southern California after years of formal training in Europe. Born in Hungary and educated in Budapest, Paris, and Munich, Kleitsch arrived in the United States in the early 20th century, but it was only after settling in California that he found his true artistic voice. Here, an ordinary street scene, a local drugstore, is transformed through light and color into something vibrant and atmospheric. Kleitsch was known as a master colorist, and his confident, expressive brushwork brings warmth and movement to the composition. The influence of European Impressionism is evident, yet the subject matter is distinctly American, capturing the charm and simplicity of a growing seaside town. Kleitsch's life was cut short at just 49, leaving behind a relatively small body of work. Today, his paintings are prized for both their beauty and rarity, a luminous record of California's past.
If this were in a gallery, most likely in California, although his work is collected elsewhere, the gallery price would be $500,000.
Oh, really? That's quite nice to know.
Yeah. When we saw the painting, we were all very excited, so it's a pleasure to be able to talk about it.
Oh, it's certainly all my pleasure.
Well, Lee Feppiger was my great-grandfather.
That is this gentleman.
This is this gentleman.
Yes.
Born in 1858, died in 1920, and he was a friend of Frederic Remington, who in 1896 painted his portrait as part of a military series in El Paso.
It only takes a moment to recognize the quiet authority in this portrait, a figure emerging from shadow, with a presence that feels both personal and emblematic of an era. Painted in 1896 by Frederic Remington, this oil on canvas captures Captain Leif Eberhard, a real-life infantry officer and acquaintance of the artist during a time when the American West was rapidly transforming into legend. Remington, widely regarded as one of the defining artists of the late 19th century American frontier, brought a distinctive energy to his work, relying less on formal academic training and more on an instinctive understanding of movement, light, and character. This portrait reflects that instinct beautifully. The subject stands with a confident, almost cinematic poise, set against a loosely rendered atmospheric background that suggests landscape without fully defining it. The interplay of light and shadow, particularly across the figure's face and uniform, gives the painting both depth and immediacy. It is not just a likeness, but a study in presence, capturing the spirit of a military man at the edge of a changing world. Accompanying the painting is a personal letter from Remington himself, offering a rare glimpse into the relationship between artist and subject and adding an intimate historical layer to the work.
It would be something that I would value at auction between $600,000
Oh my goodness.
and $800,000.
I was hoping I would be wildly exuberant. I am.
And certainly for insurance at in excess of $800,000.
My goodness.
Is just terrific.
Can I keep you around so that I take good care of it?
Perhaps.